Hey folks, I'm Seth Castellum.
Wait a minute, what's going on here?
And that's Christopher Dunn, and you are listening to Ludowave Radio, the smooth sound of video game talk. This is episode 23.
This is going so smoothly so far.
And Craigette is not here.
Where is he?
Where is Craig, Chris?
Craig got married.
Why, though?
I don't know. I mean, because he loves Megan. And he's very happy. Yeah, that's how I know why he got married, because I know why everyone gets married.
Because they love Megan? Everybody gets married because they love Megan.
That's correct.
All right, well, that's, I'm not married.
Don't you love Megan?
Apparently not. I'm sorry, Megan.
This is why you didn't get invited to their wedding.
Also, because I'm on the other side of the country.
Well, there's also that.
I have this sneaking suspicion Craig doesn't really care much for me. But
I mean, he's told me as much, so.
This really just flat out.
Yeah, on the episode he and I recorded without you.
I did not listen to that.
Yeah, we never published that one because it was a little mean-spirited, I thought.
That's okay. It's better to find out the truth earlier than later.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to find out this way.
It's better to find out earlier, 8 years after we've been doing this or whatever. I don't even know how long. But this is our first episode without Craig, so we are just flying by the seat of our pants here because I am personally lazy as fuck. I just count on Craig to do everything.
He's still going to have to edit the episode, in as much as our episodes are edited.
He's going to edit it on his honeymoon. That's where he is right now. He didn't really want us to do this by ourselves. We're supposed to do this on the weekend. It's Tuesday now. I think we're planning on doing it Friday originally.
Right.
And he was like, "Oh, you missed your chance. Now I'm not even going to edit it for you." But this whole episode would have just been Craig talking about his wedding, and I wanted to talk about Spider-Man. So
that's right. We want pictures of Spider-Man, not pictures of Craig's wedding.
Spider-Man. Well, I want to see pictures of Craig's wedding too. I don't go on Facebook or anything, and
You're better for it.
Did he post them on Twitter? I didn't see any on my.
He
Twitter
made
feed.
one post on Twitter, I think. There's some good pictures. There's pictures of him and Megan with a Master Sword and Hylian shield.
Oh, that's fucking nerdy. Jesus Christ.
I know. I so wish I could have been there to laugh at them. Instead, we'll just laugh at them on the internet.
I know a dude threw a dude who had a full-on
a dude
Jedi
threw a dude?
Yeah, I know. He had a full-on Jedi wedding with everybody wearing cloaks and holding up lightsabers, and the bride and groom walked underneath all the crossed lightsabers and everything.
I actually think that's super awesome. If there's something you're into and you can incorporate that into your wedding, by all means, you should totally do it.
As long as both parties are into it, it's kind of selfish if just the dude's into it.
I mean, I would hope that it's not a situation where the other party is like, "Oh my god, that's the nerdiest thing ever," But yeah, I don't think you should incorporate something like that into a day that is supposed to be about both of you if it's not something you're both into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is true anyways, because a lot of times the dudes don't get a lot of say in the weddings.
That's true.
Which isn't cool. How much say did you have in your wedding?
I had a lot of say. I mean, Jackie and I both did a lot of the planning. I mean, it was in Disney World, and I love going to Disney World, so... I played the Zelda theme while my groomsmen came down to stand with me, so that was pretty cool. Did not have any swords there, but that was about as close as I
don't think Disney lets you bring swords into their parks,
I didn't get married in the park, but no, they probably wouldn't let me do that anyway.
What have you been up to? What's been going on?
I haven't been up to much. I said last week we had the big pet festival going on the weekend.
Right, Pet Fest.
The day after we recorded, when I worked 70 hours that week, and then including 15 hours the day after we recorded. So that was a ton of fun. I mean, it was a big event to put on, and a lot of work for me leading up to it. But it feels really good when it's all done, and you see there's a ton of people that had fun and all of that. So now I can actually relax a little bit, which is really, really nice. It's really exciting being, just having something like that I can be a part of. I like that my job has a lot of different things I get to do. It's not just the same damn paper cups every day like I used to do. So that's a cool thing.
No. I'm at the same desk every day. I get excited when I have to do something there's signs up and we have to hang, our company sort of provides funding for signs and stuff, but then they're yeah, it's all up to you to take care of this stuff. I'm oh shit, I'm gonna hang signs, or there's network problems and stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm the only one who knows anything about computers in this office. Time for me to fix things. Like, I get excited by the most mundane shit just because it's different.
Different is good, though. I mean, you don't want to be...
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's something to be said for having a steady job. Cough, Craig. But, you know, doing something different every once in a while is nice, too. So I totally get that.
Do pets show up at this pet festival?
Yeah. I mean, what it is there's... it's free admission, and people can bring their pets in, and there's a whole bunch of different attractions that they can go to. So there's a lure course where they can run around in a circle and chase a little... I don't know if it's a plastic bag or rag or what it is, but it runs around in a circle, and the dogs go nuts trying to chase it like they're chasing, you know, a squirrel or something.
Right.
There's a doggy dash where they run down a 150-foot straight line, and there's like a radar that tracks them, and whichever dog runs the fastest gets a prize.
Cool.
There's a photo booth where you can take pictures with your dog and stuff. I think we had like 4,000 dogs, which is a lot of dogs in one place. I feel like I've certainly never had that many dogs in my house, but they probably wouldn't fit in my house. So,
are there any like cats or parrots or anything? Tortoise maybe.
When we advertise it, we say bring your dog and cat. But we don't necessarily discourage people from. We're not going to turn away people if they come to the door with other animals. So. Pretty much every year I've seen a guy with a giant, some kind of lizard. I don't know what kind it is, but it is gigantic, and we tell him just keep it off the ground. Being that I am kind of a senior person, I had on a walkie-talkie along with like the management, and I heard there was somebody there with a guinea pig in a stroller.
Cool.
Which is, I don't know that you want to bring that and put that on the ground, so I think it's good they had a stroller because the dogs are going to try to eat it.
Yeah.
So we encouraged it. It's mostly dogs, but there are some cats, and there's a myriad other animals that do show up as well. So
okay, I just wanted to make sure that Pet Fest was living up to its name, and it wasn't like just dog fest.
Absolutely, there are definitely dogs, but mostly dogs, but there are definitely other animals too. So
that sounds super awesome.
It's really fun, and like I said, it's also exhausting, but it feels good. We just had our recap today at work, and we talked about how many people were there and how we can improve it and stuff. But this is the 5th one we've done, and I feel like we're doing a really good job of it. So not to toot my own horn or anything, but it feels good, and I'm also glad it's done with for a little while.
It sounds fun. One time, with the last dog, there was a guy in our neighborhood who would foster dogs, and so he would just take various dogs in, and then we also had him like come over and walk our dog when we were like out of town or whatever, and our dog knew him well enough and go on walks with him. And one time he told me and my friend had just got one of the foster dogs from him. So he told me and my friend that there was like a dog festival going on at one of the parks at Balboa Park. And we were like, oh, sweet. So I'll bring my dog, Tiki. Rest in peace, Tiki. And my friend brought his dog. And we went there. And we were looking all over for this place. And it was like Balboa Park's huge. It was way on the other side. We finally found a big old setup and everything. And it was not a dog festival. It was like a god festival. Like it was all like religious stuff and everything. And we did find one booth where you could get your dog baptized. So I don't know if that. And then we told the guy, we're like, oh, it was just God stuff, but there was a dog baptism. But he's like, yeah, okay. And he didn't seem like he gave us wrong information in any way, shape, or form. He was just like, yep.
He was like, oh yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So that was
he dyslexic? What was going on there?
He's like in his 40s and living with his mom, and he had very bad eyesight. Let's put it this way. One time I ran into him in the neighborhood. I was walking the dog, and I was like, hey, cool bike. And he went, thanks, it's my mom's. Just not even a little bit, ironically or anything. I was just like, oh, sorry. All right, cool dude. Well, so yeah, that was him.
That's very interesting. What have you been up to this week, Seth? What are you up to?
I went to a couple of concerts. I went and saw Meg Myers, who's not very big, and I don't like her new album that much, but her first album and her first 2 EPs were pretty good. So I don't know, she was fine. And then also saw Florence and the Machine.
I've heard of them.
Which you have heard of that one. That's a big band. They're British. Did you know that?
I don't know anything about music. Music trivia is my I know nothing. So no, I did not know that.
Jesus Christ. And, anyway, their new album sucks too, but they also play stuff off their other stuff. So it was a super good show. That was exciting, and I had a lot of fun. And then I also bought a new cellular telephone.
Hey, that's cool. What kind of cellular telephone did you get?
It's an LG V20.
That sounds terrible.
Which it's it's a 2016 phone, which is upgrading from my 2012 or 2013 Samsung Galaxy S4. I think they're up to 9 now on those or something. I was rocking the 4.
At least you missed the one that explodes.
Yeah, I think that was
a 7,
9,
maybe.
actually.
I don't know.
It was who cares?
Some number that you didn't have.
Yeah, but no, I just bought it as a refurb off Amazon for $200 because I'm not. Fucking phone prices are expensive.
Phone prices are expensive. I actually just bought Jackie an iPhone 10s Max, whatever the new big one is. That's like a bazillion dollars.
That's $1,100. You love Jackie.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. We sold her old phone and we sold my old iPad, and that covered a good chunk of it. And I had a little extra money because, like I said, I worked a whole bunch of hours the week of Pet Fest. So, and also Pet Fest was the day of her birthday. So I feel like I needed to make up a little bit somehow for not being around, and also for not being around most of that whole week because I was working 70 hours that week. So, she seems very happy with it, and we're not broke. So I think that's a good thing.
Some girls get flowers. Some girls get iPhone 10X Max S3.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird letters in there.
Yeah, I thought they were called iPhone X's for a long time.
I know.
So that's.
Well, we thought it was called the iPhone X, and now it looks like the new one is called the iPhone X's. But enough about that. Tell us about your 2016 LG.
Oh, hell yeah. It's rocking 64 gigabytes of internal memory, which I just needed for games, man. Because the games you can't transfer over to the SD cards fully. It only transfers over the base, but 90% of the games are downloaded now, and that part doesn't transfer over to SD cards.
Wait, you can plug an SD card into your phone?
Oh, yeah, man. That's the future of Android right there. You need it. And I don't know. It's just a nice upgrade that is as much as I'm willing to pay for it. I went onto the Verizon website to look at the phones they were selling directly, and they were just either shitty no name stuff for $200, and then it jumped up to $500 for a phone you've heard of, and then it just went up from there. And I was like, fuck that.
Yeah, that's the worst part. I just paid, like you said, $1,100 for this iPhone 10s Max, and it's when I bought my last phone, I have an iPhone 7. And I think back then they started at $600 or $700, which is not cheap, but they've only gone way up from there, and it's awful. So I am also still rocking a 2016 phone, so I really shouldn't shame you too much. It's just that everybody shames me, so I want to get in on it once in a while.
No, that's fine. I had a flip phone before this other phone, so I'm not even. Oh yeah! Also, Verizon was willing to offer me $30 for my Samsung Galaxy S4 as a trade-in.
Hey, $30, $30.
I did not take it.
I would like $30.
They gave me that phone free though for joining them. I guess they don't do free phones anymore or something. I don't know.
So they gave you a phone for free, and then they offered you $30 for it, and you said no. That's free money, man.
I feel like on the outside market, it's worth at least $50. I think I could do better than 30. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I hope so. But you think that, and you don't know, and you're gonna feel pretty bad if you end up getting 25.
I will keep the phone at that point. I think the camera on it's worth at least that much.
All right.
What do we do after we talk at the beginning? Do we talk about games first, or do we talk about news first?
I think we usually talk about games first, but it's only been 15 minutes, and usually we go on for, I don't know, a good 25, but Craig isn't here, so I'm probably underestimating that because there's usually
there's usually 3 people, so without Craig here, you don't reduce it by 30, you got to reduce it by half because he does the majority of the talking.
That's true,
so.
but with him here, I feel like I talk way less, and I'm having to pick up the slack here because having you just talk to yourself would not be very interesting.
Yeah,
not to say that I am interesting. Don't get me wrong, but I'm trying to help.
We got this, man. We are rocking this. This is already going so much better than my expectations.
I feel exactly the same way. Meanwhile, the listeners have probably tuned out, but that's okay. We
They're
feel
like,
good.
where the fuck's Craig? He's the only one with a decent voice on the show. All right. Well, what have you been playing? Start with Zelda.
I have been playing Zelda.
Nice. Which Zelda is
I
that?
played some of the Legend of Zelda, the NES game, on the Switch, since it is available via the Nintendo Switch Online app thingy. I actually have not been playing the NES version. I actually played a little bit of the Famicom version because
is that on there?
If you have a Japanese account, which you can create for free, of course, on the Nintendo website, and the system is region free, you can log into the Japanese eShop and download anything from there. And if you're a Nintendo Switch Online member, even in the US, and you have a Japanese account on your Switch, you can actually download things that are exclusive to Switch Online members. So
and they'll still play fine.
Yeah, totally. As long as you can get past the fact that it's got a bunch of Japanese text.
Right. No, I didn't. I have a Japanese account that I made for like demos and stuff that weren't over here when the Switch. So I did not know that was an option. So they have the disc system version.
Yes.
With all the annoying sound effects.
It's got that's been the biggest weird difference for me, is that I've played this game I don't know how many dozens of times, and it definitely is still jarring to hear a different chime when you pick up an item, or a different chime when you get the Triforce, or even like the boss sound a little more like actual animals than just a weird generic audio clip.
Right.
So some of it's good, but it's definitely just different, and it's totally not what I'm used to hearing.
I don't like different. Different scares me. I hate it.
I mean, for me, I've played The Legend. I mean, even on this podcast, we've talked about when I've played The Legend of Zelda within the last year. I love trying to find different ways to play it. I've played it without a sword. I've played the weird randomized version on my laptop. I've played the dungeons in reverse order, so playing it with even slightly different sound effects is still kind of a treat for me. So,
I need to. How does the screaming into the controller stuff work? Did you get that?
I did not get that far. I got to, I think, the third dungeon, and then I closed the game and totally forgot to save it. So I have not gone back since then, and I'm totally embarrassed that I did that. But being how short that game is, it won't take me that long to get back to there. I am actually thinking about how I'm going to play it. Am I going to, skip the sword? Am I going to, go in reverse order or something? I don't know. Because like I said, I'm weird with this game.
I saw that you were playing it, so I played it as well so that we could talk about it. And now I found out that you didn't even play with past 3 dungeons, and I'm just and it's not like you could talk about it now because you don't know the game that well.
I don't know the game at all. I mean, I wonder what's going to happen. I need to get back to that third dungeon so I can continue the story. I need to know which enemy has the bomb.
I want to know how you usually go about playing Zelda. Like if you're just playing casually for fun, do you go straight to the first dungeon? Do you go off and get some heart containers first? What does a playthrough look like for you?
Yeah, if I'm just doing a whatever standard playthrough, I don't go to the first dungeon first. I usually go around and collect some heart containers. I go and collect a bunch of rupees so that I can get the magical shield, and get the blue candle and some of that stuff so I can collect things out in the world. I think you can get the white sword once you have 5 hearts, which you can do before the first dungeon. But you can't go out and get all of the hearts that are available out in the world right away because some of them require the ladder or the raft. But I think there's 3 that are available right away. So I get those. I get the sword. I get the bigger shield. I get the usually get the meat that you don't need until level 7 anyway. But get the blue ring pretty quick. I try to get a lot of that stuff out of the way, and then I just hammer through a bunch of the dungeons. The first 4 or so, and then go and get the rest of the hearts so that you can get the magical sword, I think, before level 5.
What about the paper and the medicine?
I did do that right away when I was playing it this past time. That's one of the things I do right away, yeah.
I always go and get I usually do all that stuff as well, and then the power bracelet I usually don't get until I'm up in that area anyway, because the power bracelet just seems so useless to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth it unless you're going over that way for a specific reason. But you're probably not going over there until the point in which you're not going to need the bracelet until you're going over there anyway. So I usually do. That is one of the things I get right away. But yeah, there's not really necessarily a reason for it. It's not needed right away.
All right. And how do you think, Christopher, that the game design holds up in this modern day and age?
It's
That's a vague question. It's exploration based, obviously. Like that's encouraged, which I think a lot of it, holds up for most of the dungeons. But then, like secrets, and stuff, especially ones that are quote unquote semi-necessary, like some of the heart containers that are hidden behind just random bombable walls and burnable bushes.
Yeah, I think the core of the game, like you said, the dungeons are pretty much straightforward. I mean, obviously there's exploration and there's some stuff that is not super obvious. Like level 7 is hidden, spoiler alert, beneath a pond that you have to blow the whistle in order to find.
But Chris, there's secrets where fairies aren't.
That's right. You just have to, figure out exactly where fairies aren't. There are many places in the world where there are not fairies, but this particular one.
I get what they're going for there, because it's like one screen over from a fairy fountain as well, but like then it's not like blow your recorder where there's no fairies. It's just like there's secrets where fairies aren't, right?
Right. And I think that's the level where you get the red candle, which lets you use multiple candles on the same screen. So if you're like, oh, one of the things I do to find secrets is burn things. So I'm going to try burning these 4 bushes. And you burn one, it doesn't do anything. You have to walk off screen, walk back on screen, try the next one. I don't think it's totally obvious that the blowing the recorder is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then level 8 is beneath a random bush, although it's right in the middle of a pathway, so you might think it's pretty obvious to burn that if you happen to be on that screen.
And if you haven't been burning bushes that whole time, though, like you don't even, because I guess you have the instruction manual to tell you to burn bushes, but
right.
There's no, like, obviously some stuff was improved in later games, like adding cracks to walls, and even when there's like super secret walls and like Link to the Past, you could still tap your sword against it and like hear a difference and like, oh, you could bomb this wall. So some of that stuff does not hold up, but overall I feel like the game is still fairly well designed.
Yeah, I think so too.
Encourage exploration.
I mean, I think there's definitely some secrets in that game that are very obtuse, especially when you get into the second quest. I mean, there's a lot of very.
Nope.
I don't even know the word for it, but it's.
I did that once with a guide, and I was still perplexed.
Yeah, I've done it a few times. That one has like walls you can walk through without bombing them, and then you can't walk back, and there's the red bubbles that'll take your sword away, and there's no bubble in that room to get them back, and it's kind of a pain in the ass, the second quest. But the first quest, I think there's definitely some stuff that's way too obtuse, but I don't think there's anything that's really required that's way too obtuse. There's one heart container on the southernmost area of the map, right near the start, that you might not find, but like one of them is on a giant rock, which you're going to find. Most of the stuff that you're going to need to get through the game, I think, is hard, but doable. You compare that to something like Metroid. I mean, I still have trouble playing the original Metroid to this day. I've tried numerous times. I mean, I was trying to play it when I was a kid. I try to play it now, and I don't think that game was great then, and I don't think it's great now.
No, I forced myself to play through this game when it was when you could play it on the GameCube and Metroid Prime by linking up the Game Boy Advance game. I played through it. I think that was the first time I played through it. And I got like mad at the game at first. And I was like I turned it off. I turned the game off. And then I got mad. I was like, no, fuck this game. I'm going to beat this. And I started like drawing up maps and stuff for it like it was 1986.
Right.
So yeah, that was me playing Metroid. And yeah, this game's a lot better than this game has maps built into it. What a concept.
Yeah, who'd have thought? Yeah, I think the only time I've ever beaten the original Metroid, outside of Zero Mission, which I've beaten a bunch of times, but obviously that is a completely different animal, is using the password that gives you gives you like infinite health right from the start. I've never actually beaten it the way it's supposed to be beaten. And I really don't have much desire to go back and try. As much as I love the Metroid series and I love the atmosphere of that game and I love, I love exploration-based games. It's just I don't think that one holds up very well. And it's not just the lack of a map. I think, it's just a mean game. Like, you start out with so little health. And Zelda has the same issue, but I think it's easier to acquire health in Zelda. And it's not well designed, I feel like. But
yeah, now there's like the enemies that crawl that you can't shoot because they're under you. You can't duck and shoot. Like, I think they fixed that in Metroid 2 right away.
Yeah, you have that giant sprite in Metroid 2.
Yeah. You could get hit by like enemies when you're going through walls, like when it's doing the screen transition animations.
Yep. You start out with that tiny blaster that goes like 2 feet in front of you.
Right. You got no blaster. What's the word I'm looking for?
Distance.
Distance. That's the one. That's the very hard to think of word. And then like when you need to like switch between like the wave beam and the ice beam, you got to like go back and forth and find them.
Oh God, really?
Yeah, and then you got to make sure, like, when you're going to the end, you got to make sure you have the ice beam, because that's the only way to get through all the Metroids. So.
Right. That's awful.
Game sucks.
I'm so glad we're talking about how bad this game we didn't even play recently is. But it is bad, folks.
It is bad. So Zelda holds up until Dungeon 7. I get anxiety before Dungeons 6 and before the last dungeon.
Yes, because of the whiz robes.
Yeah, the whiz robes in 6, obviously, there's way too many of them there. And then the last dungeon, I could not beat the last dungeon when I was little. When I started playing Zelda when I was like 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. And I could make it up to Dungeon 9, and I could never, ever beat it. So it's like I started just not even going into the dungeon at that point. The first time I beat Zelda was when I tried it again when I was 11. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I beat it. So I just get like really bad anxiety just to stop. And even this last playthrough, I stopped right at before Dungeon 9. I mean, it was late at night, and I was tired. But also, I just really did not want to deal with the bullshit inside of there. So that one still gives me a lot of anxiety. But
Dungeon 9 is intimidating. I mean, they have the different, more intimidating music, and you're running into these really tough enemies right away. And of course, there's the dude right in the entrance that tells you, like, don't come in if you don't have all the Triforces. And it's gigantic, and if you don't know your way around, you are going to get lost as fuck. Really fast.
I mean, and since that's my least well-known dungeon, I get lost as fuck very fast. Like Dungeon 5, I'm like, oh, you go up a screen and you bomb left a lot, and then you get the flute. But no, like Dungeon 9, I'm like, time to wander around lost.
Yeah, I know Dungeon 9 reasonably well, but even as many times as I played that game, I can still not necessarily find my way around. Like, I can do like the first 3 or 4 secret passages, and then I'm like, okay, is it this way? And I get a little lost, so... I think they did a little too good of a job on making that place a maze.
But I mean, it's a good ending to the game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely fitting for what that game is trying to do, and I think it's good for that. But it's totally a challenge for sure.
All right. So since you're a self-proclaimed Zelda aficionado,
that is exactly what I said, isn't it?
Yeah. I have a Zelda quiz for you.
Oh fuck! What is this?
These are all questions I made up on my own. And
right now, or did you plan this?
I planned
this. This is not rehearsed, folks. He is actually ambushing me right now.
Yeah, this is an ambush Zelda quiz. It's not too hard. In fact, you've already answered at least one of these questions. All right, so fill in the blank on this one. Blank hates certain kind of sound.
Dig Dogger.
Dig Dogger. All right. We got off to a good start. All right, so in the top right of the overworld, you could walk through a wall into a secret money place, right?
Yes.
How many rupees do you get inside that place?
100.
That is correct.
That is the first place I go generally. There's another spot where you can get 100 rupees, but you need the blue candle to get to it. So that is generally a good place to go first. Right? You can go up north and get that 100 rupees, and then you get the letter right near there. And there's a couple other rupee places down near level 2.
Okay.
Which is also a good place to pick up bombs, which you can then use to get into places, because all the blue moblins give you a lot of bombs. Sorry, go ahead.
They do give you. I also farm rupees in Dungeon 2 with the snakes.
Yeah. That's definitely a good place to go to.
I when I get mad when they stop, I'm like, are you guys snakes or not? Where the hell are these rupees? Drop some 5s, man. How many heart containers can you get before entering a dungeon?
I believe it's 3. There's one east of the starting area. There's the one under the giant rock south
I call
of
it
the Lost
it
Hills.
Monocle Rock
That makes sense.
because it's
So
like
you got Spectacle Rock and
There's
you got
only
Monocle
one.
Rock. And there's one in a bush right near the first level. That's 3, and then there's one that you need the ladder to get and one that you need the raft to get. And I believe it's 5, and then 8 is 13, plus the 3 you start with is 16. So I'm going to say 3. I'm just
All
making
right,
sure to show my work.
You got the bonus question, too, because the bonus question was, where are they? All right? All right, so the heart container that's on the screen of bushes, how many bushes from the left is the bush that you need to burn?
From the left?
From the
I don't
left.
know from the left.
Yeah, come on.
It's 4 from the right. Never counted from the left.
I knew you were going to know from
Damn
the right.
it, you
That's
son of
why
a
I went-
bitch. This is not
went-
fair. I don't know how many tiles there are on a screen is the thing.
Would you like to give a guess?
12.
It is the 12th bush from the left.
Hey,
You are correct.
16 seemed like a good round number.
Oh, man. Okay. You're killing it. You're killing it right here.
This
Which
is
dun-
actually unrehearsed. You actually
This
did
is
ambush
100%.
me with this.
I'm loving this.
And I'm a little embarrassed that I'm actually doing very well right now.
In which dungeons can you get bomb capacity upgrades?
Dungeon 5 in the Lost Hills and 7, which is the one underneath where fairies don't live.
Okay, that's correct. And now for bonus points.
Don't ask me about the second quest, please.
Second quest.
Fuck!
Second quest.
That I don't know the second quest as well.
Ooh.
It's definitely earlier than 5. This is going to be shot in the dark. Like this.
Okay,
I
go
don't
for
know. 3 and 6.
I'm sorry, Chris actually got something wrong about The Legend of Zelda. It's 4 and 8 were the correct answers.
I knew it was earlier than 5, but I did not remember specifically where.
All right.
And I tend to do some of those out of order too, which probably does not throw off my being able to count them.
Yeah. This one's another fill in the blank, all right?
Let's go.
Fill in the blank. It's The Legend of Zelda. It's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, and blanks too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Fill in the blank.
Oh, I should know this. Oh God, I'm slightly less embarrassed now.
Octoroks, Tektites, and blank too.
Octoroks, Tektites. Well, those are overworld enemies, so Moblins.
Ooh, no.
I figured that was too
levers.
obvious. Oh, levers.
It was levers.
That makes
Which
sense. Makes sense.
I did not know what the hell levers were supposed to be until Ocarina of Time.
Right? Yeah, it's a weird sprite. It's kind of hard to figure out what they are.
It's very top down. All right, so you get 2 pieces of the Triforce in The Legend of Zelda. One of them's broken up into 8 pieces, and the other you just get for defeating Ganon. Which are those 2 pieces?
Wisdom is broken up into 8 pieces, and you get power for defeating Ganon.
All right, that you aced most of this.
And then you
got
get courage in
2
Zelda 2.
You do get courage in Zelda 2.
From
You
the
need courage
from the
to
little
beat that
old
game.
man after you beat the Shadow Link.
Is that what happens? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's the thing that happens.
Why does he have it?
I don't know.
Why does he give it to you after you beat Shadow Link?
Because it's a test. I don't know. Because it's a test of Link's courage or something.
Like, was it?
I don't know if
did
that's actually the reason, but
Did the old man set up this test?
sure. I don't know, man. He's a sage or something.
All right, and the last question: why the fuck does the Bible suck so much in The Legend of Zelda, or the Magic Book, or whatever the hell you want to call it?
Because who
what a
cares? You don't
ter-
get it until level 8.
What a
You're almost
terrible
done with the game
item.
at that point.
What a terrible item! You also get the I'm making up a question right now. What symbol? This is actually one I wanted to add, but I forgot. When you get the skeleton key in the game, which symbol does it show? Where it usually shows how many keys you have?
An A.
Why? Why though?
I don't know why.
Okay. Well,
Oh, I thought you were saying it was Y. I'm like, no, it's A.
No, the A. No. God damn it. All right, that's Zelda talk. That's your Zelda portion. Unless you want to.
I'm so glad you
Zelda.
added something into that because like I said, I didn't have a lot to say about the game, and I still answered a whole lot of those correctly, even though I only got to level 3 and then erased my save.
Yeah, no, you nailed most of those.
Like I said, Second Quest is not my forte. I've definitely beaten that a few times, but not nearly as often.
I just thought as like you were once a little nerdy white boy rapper, so I thought you would get the rap from the commercial answer right as well.
I have watched that commercial, but it's been a long time. It did not. You'd think that would be the thing that you would memorize is just the lyrics, but like I said, I did say music trivia, not my thing.
You did. That's true. You're just living up to. Okay. Do you want to get into Spider-Man?
Yeah, let's
Spider-Man?
do that. How about you start, since I just talked a bunch about Zelda.
Yeah, let's... okay, but you also love Spider-Man.
I do also love Spider-Man.
I don't think you understand how I planned out this podcast yet, because
Wait, you planned something? I thought you said you were lazy and you didn't do anything for this podcast. You were literally transcribing the intro right before we started.
Is that lazy?
No.
No, that was me putting work into it. When Craig's around, I'm lazy because I don't need to work. You just show up and you're like, I'm the goofy one. And then you say stupid shit. You hope people laugh, and then that's it.
I know. You get to be the lazy one. You get to be the goofy one, and I get to be the one who sits there and doesn't say anything. And now you have to do all this work preparing, and I have to sit here and actually talk. This is really hard. Craig, this is really hard. We have a lot more respect for you now, because we didn't have any before.
I have a moderate amount of respect for him now. We'll see how he treats us when he gets back.
We'll see how he treats us after he listens to this.
This
might be our last episode. Sorry, folks.
He's not listening to this fucking podcast.
He's going to edit it. I mean, I guess he does. He's just going to put in the music.
Yes, he's going to put the music at the beginning. He's going to put the music at the end, and then that's all he's going to do. All right, so let's talk about Spider-Man. I beat it.
So we're going to talk spoilers for those who haven't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is this total. We spoiled Zelda for you, and now we're going to spoil Spider-Man for you guys as well.
Yes.
We're just all over the spoil. So you
find the silver arrows in the Empire State Building so that you can defeat Ganon in Central Park.
That is not how I remember it.
We might be playing different games then.
Maybe.
Anyway. Spoilers for Spider-Man.
Yeah, this is a spoiler Spider-Man. Let's do like a brief synopsis of the story here. I'll do it just so that we have jumping off points. Norman Osborn's a huge dick. He's the mayor of New York, and he's a dick.
That's correct.
There's a couple different people who hate him for different reasons. Norman creates a virus accidentally. It's supposed to be a cure for his son, Harry, who has a degenerative disease. The bad guys end up stealing the virus, and they release it upon New York with the help of some of Spider-Man's rogue galaxy.
Rogue Galaxy.
God damn. Rogue Gallery. So, that's a very brief explanation of what's going on. And now let's talk some boss fights. Do you want to talk some boss fights?
Sure.
Right.
I kind of thought it was cool that in the last act they have you fighting multiple of the Sinister Six at once.
Yes.
So like they have you fighting Electro and the Vulture together, which it just makes it a little more interesting. I mean, I think for a while there weren't a lot of boss fights. Like Act 2 doesn't have a lot of boss fights, and then
there was nothing for a very there was like Fisk at the beginning to introduce you to shit,
and then there's Shocker. And then for a while, there aren't any boss fights.
There's just nothing.
But then it's like they throw two villains at you at once. And then they do it again. They throw Rhino and Scorpion at you at the same time. And you have to kind of bounce between them and figure out exactly how to handle that, which was cool.
I like the Vulture and the Electro fight a lot. I mean, it's really simple. I think both of them are actually when you boil it down. But I like the Vulture and Electro one because you're in the air the entire time.
Yeah.
You can do the entire fight staying airborne, just swinging around and grabbing things. Vulture shoots some wingtips at you, and you could grab them and throw them at him or at Electro, and then you just zip over and beat them up. It's pretty simple, but it's really cool looking, and I liked that fight.
Oh yeah, there was the Mr. Negative fight earlier in the game too. I don't remember if that was in Act 2 or right before Act 2, but there is that one as well.
I like that. That's another, like, a lot of these boss fights are kind of simple. The Mr. Negative on the subways especially, because you're basically just dodging.
Yeah, you're just dodging his attacks. I think he has 2 different attacks, one that goes right down the center and one that's like a wide spread, and you have to figure out which one to dodge. But it's pretty simple.
But it's like really cool too, because you're fighting him on a subway as it's like zooming along down its subway thing, and you're like, when you beat him up, you like kick him through subway cars into the next one, then you Spider-Man zip through into the other one. And it's really cool, and like his attacks like start tearing up the subway, and it's cool looking.
Yeah, I think the boss fights, a lot of them are pretty simple, but they're fun to do, and they're kind of, I don't want to use the word cinematic because I feel like we use that word too much in video games, but they are, like, they're cool to watch, they're cool to do, even if they're not super complicated and difficult. You know, I don't know that I actually died in a boss fight, but I don't care because I was having fun, you know, actually being Spider-Man and doing the things that he does. So
I think the Shocker fight and the Doc Ock fight at the end were like the ones that felt the most like video gamey, like traditionally video gamey with like stages and patterns and stuff.
Right.
But the other ones that are more cinematic, wink, wink, were cool too. But we'll get to Doc Ock one.
Right.
The subway, I liked because of course the subway brakes go out and Spider-Man has to stop it. I like the callback to Spider-Man 2, where he tries to like stop it with the webs in the front, and then the webs break. He's like, oh,
it worked the last time.
Yeah, exactly. I loved that. That was a good callback. All right, so and then Rhino and Scorpion fight.
Yeah, that one I think was a little simpler. Like, Scorpion is super easy. You just shoot him with your webs, and then it's like, press triangle to zip to him.
Yeah, he falls down.
He falls down, like, immediately.
And this one, it was like the exact same thing that you're doing in the trippy Arkham ripoff, whatever you want to call it, drug-induced.
Yeah, they're like the Scarecrow levels from Arkham.
Hallucinations. Yeah.
Yeah, that I think was, I mean, I think I said last week that my trepidation about this game had been that it was going to be too similar to Arkham, and that it is similar to Arkham in a lot of ways. But I think those Scorpion levels are very much ripped off from the Scarecrow levels in Arkham. It was
a super Arkham ripoff.
And it's weird like, because like that's not a Scorpion thing. Like he shoots poison from his tail, sure, but it's never been like hallucinogenic. Or I shouldn't say never. I mean, there's 50 years of comic stories, so that's probably happened, but it's not something he's well known for, like how Scarecrow is known for, you know, fear toxins. So it seemed weird to me, but
let's say like WB did this shit to themselves in Arkham Origins. Like they had the Scarecrow hallucination levels as well, but they did it with Mad Hatter.
Yeah, that's weird.
Which that doesn't make any sense,
yeah,
right?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, that's what I thought. I don't remember Mad Hatter ever like making anybody trip out.
Yeah, so I thought some of these levels were cool, but they definitely seemed just forced, especially trying to associate them with Scorpion.
Yeah, no, that was especially since Scorpion's just an asshole.
Yeah.
I like at the I think when they're first showing the game off at E3, they were showing like a scene where you go to the raft. Is that the prison? Where you go to the raft and you're chasing Electro around the level and stuff, and it looked very like QTE heavy, like when they were first showing it off. To me, anyway. I don't know what you thought, but playing it, that was like actually like all 100% gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like honestly surprised by that part. I was like, oh, here goes the fucking autoplay fest. But no, you got to swing around, you got to dodge shit. You have like lots of freedom in your movement, just like you have as you're swinging around the city. And I thought that was actually handled way better than it was before. Plus, it was cool just watching Spider-Man get his ass beat by like all the villains.
Yeah, totally. I don't know if you'd call that a boss fight, but I actually did die a few times there trying to chase Electro around and ended up falling into the ocean or whatever. So I don't think I died in any of the quote unquote cinematic boss fights, but that one where you're chasing him around, I definitely died a couple times there. But it was cool because, like you said, you're actually playing, and it's not QTE heavy. It's what you want when you're chasing villains around a prison. So I thought that was actually a really cool sequence.
The only like super QTE heavy scene I could remember is the helicopter.
Yeah,
and now my dog's barking.
That's a nice change. It's not my dog.
Yeah, no, that's the helicopter stuff seemed very QTE heavy, but it also looked cool.
Yeah,
so
it was
I don't know.
cool,
Not
but
complaining.
I do appreciate that it was just in that, it wasn't overwhelmingly like that throughout the game.
Did you get to the optional bosses with Tombstone and Taskmaster?
I fought Taskmaster once, and I died, and I didn't come back to him. I still have a bunch of the side stuff to do, so I'm going to get back to that. And I did not get to the fight with Tombstone. I didn't know there was a fight with Tombstone, although I was hoping there was, because I was like, oh yeah, I remember I did that in a side mission, and it never came back around. So
Spoilers. Yeah, no, the Tombstone's fight's actually pretty fun. He's just like a super, super beefy heavy.
right.
Because, there's not like a ton of enemy variety in the game. There's like regular dudes, and then there's heavies, and then there's like air dudes.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And they vary a little bit between the different, whether they're like gang members or if they're demons or if they're the Sable mercenaries. They vary a little bit, like what kinds of weapons they have, but the enemy types are still the same. Where you have your regular guys and your heavies and your air guys.
Yeah, they try to switch it. Like people who have a shield, you got to get behind them, and people who have, for some reason, people who have clubs, you have to knock them into the air. Because I don't understand that one, but that's the way the game works, that's fine. Let's see.
What do you think about the combat with just like regular enemies? As compared to like the boss fights,
it's fun, especially I think if you're going for combos and stuff. There's enough variety there where you could either entertain yourself or you could get stuck doing the exact same stuff,
right? And
get bored very quickly. I think so. I think it all depends on how much you want to play. There's suit abilities. Like each suit that you unlock in the game gives you a special. One of them turns you invisible or something, and one powers up your special meter that lets you do instant takedowns like Arkham. And there's a bunch. There's a ton. Which one did you find yourself using the most?
I pretty much stuck with the base one from the regular suit, which is the one that it fills up your special meter.
I used the web blossom a bunch, where Spider-Man jumps into the air and just shoots like webs out in all directions and knocks everybody around. And I felt the most video gamey to me.
Yeah, that's totally video gamey. I did switch to a couple of them when doing some of the sub objectives, because when you're doing some of the stopping crimes or going through bases, they'll give you sub objectives, which are like electrify 3 enemies at once, or web 5 enemies to a wall, or something like that. So, like with the electrify enemies one, it's like, oh, I'm going to use the electro suit, which gives you like electric punches. So you can go and just punch a bunch of dudes, and all of a sudden they're all electrocuted at once.
Yep.
But for the most part, when just playing the game, I was sticking with just that base power. I did find myself varying up the suits, but the powers themselves, I generally stuck with that base one.
Yeah, you could mix and match suits and powers.
Which I thought was good, because they don't want to lock you into the suit that this suit because you like the power, even though you think the suit looks like garbage. There are a lot of garbage suits in this game, let's be honest.
The comic book looking one looks cool.
It does, that cell shaded one.
Yeah, I would like an option for the whole game to look like that.
I know, I would love to see that.
I liked God, what was the game? Ultimate. I liked Ultimate Spider-Man video game. And I think a lot of that was just because of the look of the game.
Yeah, the bright, colorful, comic booky look to it.
And also, I like playing as Venom.
Yeah, that was cool.
He could jump high. That's what he was doing. He could leap around.
It's been a long time since I played that game.
I don't remember much of it except for jumping really high with Venom and throwing cars at people and stuff. And doing like races against the Human Torch.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Miles Morales is a thing in this game.
Yep.
And it's different from the comics, right?
In
this game, his dad's a cop who gets killed in a terrorist exploding by Mr. Negative, who's Martin Lee, who's a bad guy who hates Norman Osborn, and he's the one who steals the virus that he unleashes on New York. And then Peter gets him a job at a homeless shelter that Aunt May helps run,
which Martin Lee, Mr. Negative, owns or runs above Aunt May, even though he's a villain who wants to murder people and spread a giant bioweapon.
So
Yes, he runs a homeless shelter.
Yes. So Miles already exists in like this in Peter's world, in that New York, and that everything. That's not how it works in the comics, right?
Correct. Miles Morales was introduced in the Ultimate Universe, which was oh god, we're getting so deep into comic booky minutia.
I want it. Let's go.
Miles Morales was introduced in the Ultimate Universe, which is an alternate thing. Back in 2000, they launched Ultimate Spider-Man and a couple other. There was Ultimate X-Men and Ultimates, which was basically the Avengers. But it was kind of retelling those stories, but with a modern twist. So you could read kind of Spider-Man's origin, but it's not, totally overwritten Stan Lee dialogue from the 60s.
Real quick interjection here. I really like the Ultimate version of Rhino, where he's just like a little wimpy dude in a big mechanical suit.
It's great.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
The Ultimate Comics ran for 10 years or so, 10 or 12 years before they introduced Miles Morales. Ultimate Peter Parker died fighting Norman Osborn, and they introduced Miles Morales as the new Spider-Man of that universe. So there was no Peter Parker remaining alive by the time he was introduced. Since then, they have canceled all the Ultimate Comics and brought Miles Morales over to the regular Marvel Universe, so he does exist with Peter Parker now. But the origin is totally different because Peter Parker obviously didn't exist then, and he exists in this game, and it's a whole thing.
How did they get Miles into the canon?
I didn't read that. I could not tell you. There's so many weird comic booky things. I could tell you about how Spider-Man made a deal with the devil to erase his marriage from the world, so it never happened. That's a weird thing. Yes, his marriage has been sold to the devil. So now in the comics universe, Spider-Man was never married. Isn't that a cool thing? Also, over in the DC universe, Jason Todd was brought back to life after Superboy was punching the walls of reality. So that's a thing. Comics, guys. Comics. Anyway, Miles Morales is in this game, and Spider-Man is not dead.
Fuck you, walls of reality. So you do like these. How do you feel about the stealth missions with Miles and Mary Jane?
I like that they added a little variety to the game, but I don't like that it just it grinds the gameplay to a halt and forces you into stealth. I feel like, to me, the stealth is fun, but nobody wants to be forced into doing stealth.
I liked them. I thought they were fun. I thought they were well done. They're not overly complicated. You could throw little distraction things or whatever, and then make the enemies go "What's that?" and then sneak past them.
I really liked the one in Grand Central with Mary Jane, where you're distracting the enemies, and also you have to call on Spider-Man to web them up. I thought that was cool.
That's super cool. I like that. Putting that stage together must have been fun for them as well, just to get the Spider-Man AI to get into positions and stuff, and you seem zip down from the huge Grand Central Station ceiling and go back.
Yeah,
up. It's fun stuff.
It's super cool because you're doing these web takedowns, these perch takedowns, whatever, throughout the game. But to see them from that perspective is just oh, whoa, that's the thing I'm always doing. But whoa, that looks really cool. You can't even see him, and all of a sudden this web just comes down and he's gone. So no, I thought that one was super cool. I didn't really mind the stealth sequences, but I thought that at times it was just oh, this kind of messes with the pacing of the game. Especially because it just, if you get spotted, it automatically just kills the mission. If you could have a chance to go and try to hide again, like you can when you're trying to be stealthy in the main game, I think that I might have liked that a little better. But overall, I didn't hate them.
There's a little meter that builds up as an enemy spots you, but it's hard to always pay attention to those.
Right.
A lot of times I don't even notice them until they're already almost full or full.
Yeah.
But so my point was, because I mentioned Miles, I mentioned these stealth missions. There's one where you're sneaking through Norman Osborn's house as Mary Jane, and you're trying to find information on this virus that Norman's created, and Norman has a little secret science room that's going on in his penthouse suite.
He sure does.
And there's all this weird shit in there. And one of the things that's in there is a bunch of spiders. He's trying to recreate the Spider-Man spider.
Seems like it,
right? And one of them hitches a ride onto Mary Jane, unbeknownst to her. Mm-hmm. She eventually ends back up at Feast, which is the homeless shelter where Miles is now working. And then the spider ends up biting Miles.
What?
I thought you were gonna say Miles for me, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be all cool. But yeah, so they're throwing Miles Morales Spider-Man into this universe right towards the end of the game.
Yeah. Literally at the end of the game is when
Yes.
I mean, you see him get bit by the spider, and then there's like in the end, right before the credits, you see him reveal to Peter that he can stick to walls, and then Peter reveals to him that he can also stick to walls, which was a little weird because I feel like it's not hinted that that reveal is going to happen. It's not like it's hinted that Miles knows about Peter's secret or anything.
Right. Miles is in the dark, but Peter's just like, he's a cool dude.
He's a cool dude
I've known him
whose
for
dad
a few
died and
months.
my uncle died, so let's talk about this. Hopefully he doesn't turn into a supervillain. That's never happened in this world.
I like the story, though, because it's like it draws on a lot of different things. Like Peter has that connection with Miles because of like very similar happenings going on.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter's trying to balance working for Dr. Octavius, who turns evil, low-paying job. He's got his not able to pay rent. He's broken up with Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I have a burp. He's like Mary Jane and Peter are not together.
Right.
So he's like trying to work that out, and then the whole homeless shelter thing that his aunt works at, and then it turns out Martin Lee, who works there, is also one of the main villains of the game, and it's all tied together really well. And then there's a whole Norman Osborn thing, and like you think Harry's in Europe. Let's get to that. You think Harry Osborn is in Europe the whole time, but it turns out he is sick. And where is he? Chris?
He's in a tank in that science room you mentioned.
He's in a tank in the science room Mary Jane was in, but there was a big metal thing. So I even said to myself, because like you find out like Harry might not really be in Europe because you find some journal before that. I was like, I bet Harry's in that tank, and then he was.
He totally was.
Harry was. But what was that substance all around Harry inside that tank?
Say that again. I can't hear you.
So who's in that tank?
Harry Osborn is in that tank with what looks like maybe the Venom symbiote.
Why? That's not how the Venom symbiote works, right?
In what way? In that it comes from space?
Yeah, exactly. It should come from space, right?
It normally does come from space. In that Ultimate Universe I mentioned previously, the origin of the Venom symbiote was that it was developed as a cure for cancer by Peter Parker's parents and Eddie Brock's parents. So this seems to be taking inspiration from that.
Okay, so this one is obviously trying to be a cure by Norman Osborn.
Right. And it seems like this game in general is trying to take a lot of inspiration from different places. This isn't necessarily, the Stan Lee Spider-Man or the Ultimate Spider-Man or the movie Spider-Man, but it takes some inspiration from all of those places.
Yeah, they're very much doing their own thing.
Right, which I think is cool. I mean, I don't think that they necessarily need to have the Venom symbiote come from space. They can still tell a good story by having it done differently.
I like the connection that it has to Peter, though, because then it like hates Peter for rejecting it and stuff like that, and then it's like the symbiote itself is mad at Peter / Spider-Man, and then that helps whatever it attaches to, fuel that rage.
Yeah, I would hope wherever they go with the next game, or probably the game after that, because I assume they're going to do 3 games, as games tend to want to be trilogies, or developers want them to be trilogies. I hope that they do, wrap Peter into that. I mean, I haven't seen that new Venom movie yet, but having Venom without having the symbiote attached to Spider-Man, I think that's a big part of what makes the symbiote interesting, is that relationship that it has with Peter. So I hope that does tie into it somehow, and it's not just, Harry is Venom because he already has the symbiote. Like, I hope there's more to it than that. But
does Harry know Peter is Spider-Man? Oh, I guess you don't know in this universe. Generally, does Harry know that Peter is Spider-Man?
At this point, probably no. He does.
Okay.
He does eventually find out, but it's not something he knows right away.
Okay.
It's usually well after his dad dies as the Green Goblin that he finds out, and obviously in the game, Norman Osborn has not become a supervillain yet. He's just a regular evil person.
There was hints to that too. He had some Green Goblin grenades.
Right. Yeah. There are grenades, and there's
room.
like a weird mask in there that looks like it could be goblin-y.
Yeah.
So they're hinting at that, and they're hinting at Venom, and I think that's probably going to play into sequels, but they haven't totally gone there yet.
Aunt May dies.
Aunt May dies. That was sad. I was very sad when that happened.
So Peter stops he gets a cure for this virus that was unleashed on the city. Everybody's sick in the city. Peter gets a cure, and he's forced with a choice to choose between giving it to Aunt May right there, which would use all of the cure, or to give it to Scientist Dude so he could make large batches of the cure and like save everybody in New York. And obviously he goes with the one where not everybody in New York dies.
Right. I mean, you say obviously, but it's. I mean, it seems like it was in the context of the game a very difficult choice.
It was a very difficult choice.
Fortunately, they don't make the players make that choice, but like, God, that was a hard scene to watch.
It was well acted. It was well done. Everything. I like. Spider-Man is very much into Spider-Man costume at that point. He's like telling Emma, he's like, "Don't worry, man, we're going to cure and stuff." Like then she's like, "Take that mask off so I could see my nephew."
Yeah,
because she knew, and she was just playing along. She said that she'd known for a few years. It was all a very touching scene, and then she told Peter that he's going to make the right choice and that Uncle Ben would be proud and stuff like that. And it was all very well done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it seems like, maybe had she not woken up and given that speech, like, he might have chosen to give it to her. It really seems like, again, you said he makes the obvious choice to save all these people in New York, but it's not an obvious choice. I mean, Spider-Man is very much a character. When I read Spider-Man, I love, the supporting cast, and I love the relationships between Peter and Mary Jane and Aunt May and Flash Thompson and all these people. And for him to make that choice to let Aunt May die, I mean, that was powerful.
Yeah, it was sad.
It was very sad.
It was well done, and it was sad, and it was a good ending to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know what was going to happen in that moment, to be honest with you.
Oh, I didn't fucking think that they were going to kill Aunt May like in the first game.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I had read some stuff online that, the ending is really good, but I didn't know any specifics about what was actually going to happen. So I was kind of questioning, where is this going to go? That is not what I expected to happen. And I think they, not only because it was surprising, but I think it, like you said, it was acted well and it was really delivered very well. So I'm very impressed with it. Very impressed with that choice.
More moved by that scene than anything in Spider-Man Homecoming. Want to talk about the Doc Ock fight at the end? I don't even know as much to talk about. You beat him up?
You do beat him up, yeah.
Doc Ock's like the characters, they nailed the characters in this game, because Doc Ock's story arc is super good too, because he's just trying to do science stuff. He was scorned by Norman Osborn in the past, and then Osborn comes in again and like starts fucking up his whatever he's doing, comes in and confiscates a bunch of sciencey stuff. I don't remember why. And that just sort of sets Dr. Octavius over the edge. And then also he's like working on, the robot arms and a neural switch for it. And that's also messing with his personality.
I think they split up when Norman Osborn did the tests that caused Martin Lee to turn into Mr. Negative.
Right. Yeah, Norman Osborn's also responsible for that little thing, because he was working on trying to cure his wife, who had the same disease as Harry does now. It's all
McGregor syndrome.
Yeah,
that's
it's
all
all
Batman and Robin. Terrible movie.
Well put. I have no idea what you're talking about.
That was the disease that Alfred had in Batman and Robin.
I don't remember Alfred having
Good. That's a bad movie.
Okay.
It's kind of a good bad movie, but anyway, you're saying things.
It's all interwoven. It's all interwoven and well thought out. It's like a well thought out game, story wise, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I talked last week a lot about the combat and how I feel about that, and the the swinging mechanics, which I really enjoyed. But I think the story is really what makes this game stand apart, at least from Spider-Man games in the past, which have done a good job of trying to have this comic booky story, but this was less comic booky. And I say that comic booky as a negative, and I enjoy comic books, and I know that comic books can be more than what we think of when we think of comic books. But
don't get them wrong; they're still like big burly men in Scorpion breaking Scorpion outfits with tails everywhere.
There's still a group of 6 supervillains breaking out of a supermax prison and releasing a bioweapon on the city and all that crap. There's all that too. But overall, I mean, I think that the character relationships are what really makes this game work. The relationship with Aunt May and how you feel when she dies, and the relationship between Peter and Dr. Octavius. I mean, looking at when you talk about like the Sinister Six, and you look at there's Scorpion and there's Rhino and there's Sandman and there's whoever, they're supervillains. And when I was looking at Dr. Octopus, I wasn't thinking of him as Dr. Octopus. I was thinking of him as Dr. Octavius. The guy you have seen throughout the game as Peter's mentor.
It's kind of heartbreaking when he starts turning crazy.
Yeah.
I felt bad for him. Like, Peter feels bad for him, too. He's, like, genuinely worried and concerned. And at the end, after you beat him up, Norman also has everybody has degenerative diseases in this game. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He's, like, losing muscle functions, and that's part of why he wanted to build these arms and stuff to help him get around. After you whoop his ass and he's like just lying there and he can't really move or anything, he's like reaching out to Peter, and Peter's like very heartbroken and torn over what to do and whether to help him or not. But then he starts being an asshole again.
Yeah. But because of the way the character's been there throughout the game as, a person and not just as Dr. Octopus, you really feel for him in that moment.
He's not like the bowl cut, just evil foreign dude like he was in the old Spider-Man cartoon.
Right. I was kind of when you first meet Dr. Octopus and he's got like the different haircut, I was like, oh, that's weird. Why did they even change that? Like, that's such a classic look for him. And I think it was intentional because they want you to look at this character differently. And I think it works. You definitely, like I said, I wasn't viewing him as Dr. Octopus even at the end of the game when he's got, the 4 arms and he's got the stupid goggles on his face and he's in the green jumpsuit. Like, he's still, you're thinking of him in the context of being, Peter's mentor and Peter's boss and this person that he looks up to.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it's a well done game. Gameplay wise, or not even gameplay loop wise, towards the end, I feel like it kind of falls apart as far as side missions and everything goes, because there's like a prison breakout, and then there's the Silver Sable Security Company who's gone crazy, and then there's just like so many like crimes and bases and forts, and just like you're just overwhelmed by stuff to do like right at the end of the game. Yeah,
they definitely give you more stuff as you go on. I mean, you get the Sable, initially there are the Fisk bases, and then there are the Demon bases, and then there are, like you said, the Sable bases, and they add the Taskmaster missions halfway through the game, and they're constantly adding stuff. And even once you've beaten some of the different crimes in the city, it's like, we're going to give you more crimes, and it's like it does feel like it's a lot by the end of the game.
And the crimes are very samey. There's
right.
Probably like 4 different types of crimes. And I just feel like some of that stuff could have been paced out better, because like all of a sudden, like you said, like it's probably more than halfway through the game that all of a sudden the Taskmaster stuff shows up, and it's like, now there's like a shit ton of Taskmaster things to do. Like, it feel like those could have been like doled out throughout the game instead of just dumping all of them on you at once.
Yeah, I was looking at the different suits you could get, and I'm like, what are these challenge tokens?
Yeah, what
how
are
do
challenge
I get these?
Tokens? That was like so long. I'm like, where do I get challenge
I'm
tokens?
like, am I missing something? What did you think of the Taskmaster missions? Did you think they were good, or did you were by that point were you like, this is too much, I don't want to do this crap?
I liked them. No, I like time challenges a lot. So I was happy with them. Some of them are really hard. The follow the drone ones actually really test like your swinging and ability to get through the city. And if you fuck up on them, there's no quick way to restart. When you hit pause, you could like quit the mission, but you can't restart it. So then you got to like go all the way back to the beginning. If you fail it though, you could replay it right away. So it's kind of annoying, like when you know that you fucked up early on, and then you just have to like play it through completion, and then know that you failed just to restart.
I think if you restart from the checkpoint, from last save checkpoint or whatever, it'll start you back at the beginning of the mission. I think it was. It might not apply to Taskmaster ones, but
that's like good to know. But
obviously you've platinumed already, so it's too late for you.
There really should have been.
There definitely should have been a restart button. I agree.
So I mean, those are fun. The bomb ones weren't super hard. Like those ones you're gonna fail. Well, not fail, but not get the fastest time at least once because you need to figure out the bomb locations and everything.
Yeah. I thought those were fun. I mean, it's fun to try to figure out the fastest point from A to B, the fastest route from A to B. It reminded me of not to the same extent, but the Koopa races in Mario Odyssey, where it's just like, oh, you got to figure out exactly the best route because if you don't, you're not going to get that gold.
And then I think the other ones you just beat up a bunch of people, which is fun too because it. You gotta throw in your variety and you gotta try really hard not to get hit and stuff like that because that'll lower your score.
I thought those were not as good as I hoped they were going to be because it seemed like they were very much focused on just speed rather than when I do the combat. I mean, you talked about this a little bit earlier, but with the combat, I really liked the variety and being able to, you could web these dudes to walls and you can jerk them up in the air and you can throw things at them. But most of those things you do, it doesn't matter in these specific challenges what you're doing. It's just you have to kill as many dudes as possible or defeat as many dudes as quickly as possible.
The speed bonus was worth the most.
Exactly, yeah. The speed bonus is weighted higher than everything else.
Yeah, when I wasn't getting golds, I was like, how do I beat these guys faster? You're right. Fuck those missions now.
That's one of the points when I started using the Web Blossom a little more.
Yeah, Web Blossom's awesome.
But I did find myself really enjoying using the different abilities in combat. Like we talked last week, and I was like, well, the combat's okay because it's it's very Arkham-y. It's just combos. But doing the different things, like figuring out I'm going to web them to walls, and I'm gonna web this dude, and then I'm gonna punch him up in the air, and then I'm gonna use my web to pull him down to the ground, and he's gonna get slammed down and webbed to the ground. Or punching him or throw things at him. And there's a lot of variety of things to do, which really make you feel like Spider-Man. And I think that was once you figure out all the different types of moves you can do, I think it's a little more rewarding. Not necessarily rewarding and giving you actual rewards. It feels more fun and it feels more true to the character.
So I feel like the bases are more fun for that too because they give you 3 bonus objectives to do while you're in there. And it could be stick so many people to the walls or take out so many people silently or electrocute people and stuff like that. So that's...
I really enjoyed those. It's good, too, that they give you a lot of space to move around in. And, sometimes there's these scaffoldings you can pull down on dudes. Or there's lots of things you can throw at dudes or whatever versus a lot of the just regular crime missions where you're just, in the middle of the road. There's not necessarily a lot of variety of what you can do.
So I think the Taskmaster stuff and the bases were my favorite side content. The Harry research labs were kind of dumb, like vaccinating fish and stuff.
Yeah. Some of those were fun, but I mean, I think based on whatever they specifically were, I didn't necessarily enjoy all of them because they were those. Right.
And then the random crimes would just get really annoying really fast.
Yeah. What about the Black Cat stuff? Was that fun?
Oh, the Black Cat stuff was stupid.
It was so dumb.
You find a telescope and you look for a
little toy cat.
It's that part of Metroid
Other M.
Other M.
Pixel
M all
hunting.
over again. Yes.
Oh, those were not good.
Jesus Christ.
And you get a suit for that.
Yeah, you do.
There should have been that should not have been the reward for that. You should have gotten way less.
I think it's a teaser for the DLC story.
Yeah, the first DLC is a Black Cat thing, and then I think I don't know what the other two are, but I bought the limited edition PS4 Pro because I'm a sucker, which includes the season pass. So I'm going to be playing that stuff.
My statue version came with the season pass.
There you go. We can play that and talk about that another time.
Season pass buddies when Craig's not around. We've talked about Spider-Man for 2 hours now.
We've talked a lot.
I like the JJ radio stuff too.
Yeah, that stuff is cool.
They nailed his character in those.
That was so interesting because everybody knows the way J. Jonah Jameson is. He's this ridiculous, over the top, I hate Spider-Man, blah blah blah. But in the context of having a radio show, it's a little too close to reality. It's oh my God, is this Alex Jones? What is going on here?
They definitely nailed the lack of self-awareness in a lot of his stuff. And a couple times though, he brings up some decent points here and there.
Yeah.
The camera surveillance, the city state or surveillance state of the police security cameras, whatever, all over, and something else I agreed with somewhere. I don't remember what.
I really like that stuff just like periodically just occurs while you're swinging around. Because one other thing I thought was cool was the like the Twitter feed that you can look at in the pause menu.
Right, I looked at that once, but
well, that's exactly it. It was cool, but it's like I'm never going to go in and look at this. Whereas the radio stuff just comes up periodically while you're swinging around, and I'm like, oh, I can't help but listen to this. It's so interesting. Whereas I have no reason to go in and just read the Twitter feed. I mean, I did it a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked. So if they could have put if they could have had like a ticker along the bottom of the screen or something, I would have loved that. But
right. I let crimes happen just so I could stop and listen to J. Jonah Jameson talk.
I tried to play like how I believe Spider-Man actually would, which was every time there is a crime going on nearby, no matter what the fuck I'm doing, I'm going to go drop what I'm doing and go stop this fucking runaway car, even though I really don't want to. It's ridiculous.
But I also like the way the J. Jonah stuff is like tied to like side content too and stuff. Like you might do a side mission where you catch a bunch of pigeons, and then Jonah's like, he's probably like a bird eating spider. He's eating these pigeons and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was cool how that stuff just ties into whatever you've just done.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
All right, now I'm sick of talking about Spider-Man.
All right. No, I think it's great. I think people should check it out. I can't wait for the next one with Harry Venom or whatever that's going to be.
Harry Venom. All right. News?
Yeah, let's talk about some news.
Let's do news.
Sony is fixing that dumb crossplay thing where in Fortnite, where people who play... When this first came out on Switch, I saw a lot of people talking about this. Right. If you had played Fortnite on your PS4, you were not able to link your account with other consoles. So people who had played Fortnite on PS4 and then downloaded it on Switch couldn't play with their existing account, which is stupid.
Their Fortnite account was stuck on the PS4.
Correct.
Could it move it to Xbox or Switch or PC? Could you move it to PC?
I believe you could move it to PC. Don't quote me on that. But with the other consoles you could. So if you played on Xbox, you could move it to Switch, or vice versa, but not PS4. And they're fixing that, which it sounds like there might be cross-play there as well coming soon, so you could play on PS4 with people on Switch or Xbox.
What? Sony's going to allow cross-play?
That's what they say. But I think I think the bigger deal is just that you'll be able to actually, jump between the different versions, which I think is cool because Fortnite is available on pretty much everything, as far as I know, as somebody who played Fortnite once for 10 minutes. It's good that you don't want to lock people out when it's something like Fortnite is as big as it is. I mean, I feel like everybody's talking about Fortnite, but everybody's way younger than I am, so.
Yeah, I don't know much about
also Craig.
Fortnite thing.
Castlevania Requiem was announced for PS4, which is going to have Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood. And that comes out later this month, I think.
Nice. It's what system? Just PS4.
Just PS4.
Is Sony helping with this release or something?
I don't know.
It seems like a weird exclusive, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Symphony of the Night, I believe it came out on 360 when they released it back, 10 years ago or whatever the hell that was.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not like there's some kind of exclusive because it was on PlayStation 1 initially. But I don't know. It seems like something that should be on Switch, but I want everything to be on Switch, so what do I know?
I just saw Konami saying it's not a mere port. There's 4K and 1080p and Rumble. Rumble was like
Rumble.
There's Rumble. You got that 1996 Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, Symphony of the Night was on PS1. PS1 had Rumble. I mean, I don't know if Symphony of the Night did,
but I don't think this game had Rumble.
Well, now it will. If you've been waiting 20 years to play Symphony of the Night with Rumble, do we have a treat for you?
They're good games, though.
Yeah, I'm excited to play these again. I didn't play Rondo of Blood until it came out on the Wii Virtual Console, and it's great. Right. I haven't played all of the classic style Castlevania games. I've always been more into the Metroid style, but Rondo of Blood's really good. So
Rondo of Blood feels like the Mega Man X of the classic Castlevania, because it's still the same like, I don't know, moving through the castle. It's not like a Symphony of the Night where it's all open world, but you got like tons of movement options, and Richter's like a badass, and he's doing all this cool stuff. It's like if the old Castlevania games were cool and you didn't just walk everywhere.
Yeah. So this is cool. I will probably check this out. I mean, I love Symphony of the Night too. Both of those games are great. So, and it's been a long time since I played Symphony of the Night. Although there's so many Metroidvania style games right now that I can't keep up with. So why not go play one I've already played before? That does sound like something I would do, since we like how we talked about Zelda already. We talked a little bit last week, 3 weeks ago, whenever the hell it was.
Who cares?
About Telltale shutting down. And it sounds like Skybound, which is the publisher of the Walking Dead comics, or not the publisher, but the imprint of Image, company. Skybound is run by Robert Kirkman, who writes The Walking Dead and is affiliated with Image, is going to step in to assist with completing the remaining episodes of The Walking Dead final season. They've said that they're looking to help all of the people who got laid off at Telltale, and get those people working on the game. And it's not about Telltale, it's about the people, which sounds good, but we don't have a lot of details about that. But
that came out like after Backlash first, where they're
right.
like, "What? They're just gonna." Telltale had to clarify, like, "No, we're not gonna just take this and we're not gonna fire everybody and then make games." No, they said, like, we would try to help.
Yeah, the initial story was that Telltale shut down and nobody was getting severance, and then Telltale said, "Oh, we're looking to finish the game." And it's like, but you didn't pay all those people, so you're gonna pay somebody to make this game. And that was definitely a bad look. So it seems like things are edging in the right direction, but it remains to be seen where it will land.
Thankfully, they clarified or backtracked, or either way, thankfully they went in the right direction eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there were some shitty goings on, but hopefully we land in the right place, whether for the right reasons or not.
Image Comics corporate office is over by my work.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think they also have like a little a comic museum, like either in the same building or right near it or something.
I'm gonna come visit you.
Yeah, because I saw that they had like a Peter Laird exhibit or something.
Oh, cool.
Going on. Yeah.
Image is really cool because all of their stuff is creator owned. So Robert Kirkman owns The Walking Dead versus like Spider-Man, which is owned by Disney, a company you may have heard of. So creators get to do whatever they want, but anyway, this is not a comic book podcast.
It was almost.
We talked about Spider-Man for a while, so it might as well be. Nintendo has patented a Game Boy Smart Device case, which Nintendo patents a lot of things that don't necessarily turn into anything.
They patent a whole bunch of shit.
But this is kind of interesting. It's basically a case that goes over your phone and creates basically buttons that you could then will push onto the touch screen. So it's still a touch interface, but you're actually pushing buttons with your fingers rather than pushing the screen, even though that's where the presses are actually happening.
And then there's a little cutout where like the Game Boy screen would be. So it effectively turns your your phone into a Game Boy. It doesn't turn your Game Boy into a phone. Turns your phone into a Game Boy. But that's like interesting because that might be an option that they'll go with instead of doing like a Game Boy Classic or whatever if they want to.
I really hope they do a Game Boy Classic though.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope they do really like a Game Boy Color combo kind of classic thing. Because I think there's a lot of good stuff on those, but
yeah.
On the other hand, I probably won't play it very much. I'll just play the games on my old Game Boy.
It seems so silly though, because it's just like I don't know, like I feel like the whole point of the Game Boy was cool because it was a handheld where you could actually switch out the cartridges instead of just being locked into like a single LCD game or like maybe a built-in 8 games or whatever.
Right, versus the Tiger handhelds and Game & Watch and stuff like that.
Exactly. So I feel like reverting that into something with locked-in games is kind of goes against the ethos of the original Game Boy, but
that's a fair point.
I mean, whatever. I guess it doesn't make sense with the NES or Super Nintendo Classic either, so who cares?
Yeah, I really like the classic consoles. I mean, I don't play them. I play them a little bit when they first come out, and then they generally tend to sit on the shelf. But I think they're a cool idea, and there is some novelty to playing in what feels like the original hardware. Playing the Super NES Classic with a Super NES controller is a very different experience from playing, The Legend of Zelda on my Switch, I feel like. So I'd definitely be interested if they do a Game Boy Classic, and I feel like they'd be stupid not to with how much money these things seem to be making, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Sony is preparing to allow users to change their PSN names, excuse me. Is that a thing you couldn't do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember even before Sony was like saying that the way that their infrastructure was built, that was like impossible to do. So it's kind of interesting to see that they have figured out a way to do it.
That's cool. I mean, that seems like speaking as somebody who's not a developer or a back-end thing of any kind, it seems like something that should be simple. But
right,
the fact that it may not have been simple and they're working to make it happen, I think, is a good thing.
This is not confirmed by Sony yet. Have they still not confirmed this?
I believe they have not as of the last time I looked.
All right, so if it doesn't happen and you get your hopes up, blame Chris.
Sorry, guys. Sorry to let you down. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Nintendo will be releasing a revised Switch in the back half of 2019. I feel like this is not a huge piece of news because it's not really unexpected that Nintendo is going to release revised hardware. But what do you think, Seth?
It's weird because Wall Street Journal's I can't do this. We're recording. Let's keep rolling. We had audio issues. And we're like recording this segment here.
This is the first time we've ever had this type of audio issue. Normally, it's just us talking that is the issue.
Yeah, so we're pretending like we didn't just do this. It's weird because Wall Street Journal is the only place reporting about this.
I'm having deja vu right now. I feel like I read this somewhere else, but it was probably the Wall Street Journal.
All right, so Wall Street Journal says there's a revised Switch coming out.
Yeah. And whether or not they have any insider information, there probably is a revised Switch coming out.
They're probably they don't have like specifics. They're like, it might be this, it might be that. They don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably not going to be a hardware improvement. It's not going to be like a beefier version of the system. It's just going to be kind of a DS Lite style revision to make it sleeker or something like that.
Might be smaller. That would be weird though if they make it smaller because then they have to like redo Joy-Cons or something. Maybe thinner, better screen.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what this is, but really it doesn't matter what it is because I'm going to buy it either way.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll see. But that's about it for news, unless you got anything else.
No, let's not do that other one again.
People are never going to know what that last thing was.
Who
anyway,
knows? Let's do mailbag. Let's do mailbag. All right. We didn't do this one before, so this one's actually fresh.
All right.
Hugh asks, I'm curious as to what your first import games were and how you procured them. Rest in peace, Lick Sang, he says. What was your first import?
I think my first import was Mother 3 on the GBA, which I ordered on eBay. I think I was in college and maybe I didn't have a credit card yet, or maybe I was just poor, but I had like an eBay gift card that I used to order that. And it was, I felt like Mother 3 was old news by that point, but it was like 2 years after it came out.
Right.
Whereas now, that game is like 12 years old, so now it definitely is old news. But I think it was because it had been big in Smash Brothers because Lucas was there and all that. And Mother 3 is still great. I actually played a bit of that earlier this year. Actually in English, because when I imported it, I actually played it in Japanese. I didn't the patch wasn't out or anything by that point, so I played it in Japanese, and a lot of that stuff really, the emotion of those scenes really comes through because the animations in that game are fantastic for the simple graphics that it has.
Yeah, I imported that like right when the patch was either announced or right when it released or something, but. It's an awesome game.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
No,
I have imported a couple other things. I had picked up Jump Ultimate Stars, I think, for the DS in just a local store, and I bought Last Window, the sequel to Hotel Dusk, on I think it was Play Asia, even though that's a European game.
Fry's used to have like import PSP games.
Really?
Like Fry's Electronics, and there would just be like stickers on them that'd be like only in Japanese, but plays on U.S. hardware or something like that. And I thought that was like a really weird thing for them to do. I was going to say that my first import game was Sin and Punishment on N64, but I remember one time my brother came back from the swap meet with a couple of...
I'm just laughing at the term swap meet. It sounds such an old-timey thing. Oh, that's so hunky-dory. Let's go down and meet at the swap meet.
I don't. It came back from the flea market. Like what? I don't know. They all have old-timey names. I don't know what the hell you want me to call this thing. What are they called?
Swap meet is fine. It's just funny. I'm just laughing.
Okay,
Go ahead. Continue. Swap meet.
He came back from the swap meet, and he had a couple of Super Famicom games, and he had Outer World, which I guess is the Japanese name for Another World. So he had Outer World, and I don't even know what the name of the game is now. It was a Super FX game with like a robot or several robots, but I think you only play one on each level that transforms. Mm-hmm. But it was like a really impressive looking game, and I didn't even like understand that they were import games. That I was like, why are these cartridges funny looking?
I feel like Craig probably knows what game you're talking about, but I don't.
I'm.
But the important thing is that you had a rinky-dink time at the swap meet.
God damn it, man. The name of the game, it's right here. What is this? That's Vortex. That's right.
Vortex. Okay.
Vortex for Super Famicom. So those were actually my first imports. But the first one I set out to import was Sin and Punishment, and I just got that off eBay.
Cool. That's a good game. I didn't play that until it came out on Wii. And I really appreciate that older games do kind of get a little bit of an extra life, especially stuff that never came out here. Maybe not a ton of games, but something like Sin and Punishment is great, and I'm glad that there's a chance for people like me who are too cheap and lazy to import get a chance to play it.
Yeah, no. And the game was already in English, which is
right.
Just insane to me that they didn't bring that over at the time. The voice acting was all in English. Let's see. Jinx says, did you listen to the new Coheed album? Just Seth and Chris answer. Well, joke's on you, Jinx, because just Seth and Chris are here.
Is the joke on him? Because that's what he wanted.
He
didn't want Craig's opinion anyway.
No, that's called facetiousness. Chris,
go on.
He was being facetious because he knows that Craig is the only Coheed and Cambria fan among us three.
But you know that it is Coheed and Cambria that he's talking about, even though he just said Coheed.
I have hung out with Craig enough to know that Coheed. Also,
I also knew that, and I have not.
One of their songs is in like Rock Band or Guitar Hero or something, and it's a pretty awesome song. So.
Okay. I feel like I've been hearing about Coheed and Cambria long enough that I probably should listen to something they've done, but I could not name a single song because I don't think I've ever heard any of it.
They're probably terrible.
Yeah, that seems likely. I'm not going to go listen to any of it.
Olavi asks, any PSVR recommendations from Seth?
Joke's on you, Olavi. Seth's not here.
Seth, no. I had been ignoring my PSVR for a while. I actually just got Astrobot Rescue Mission for it, and the game's fucking amazing. I didn't want to talk about it because we were like going all fucking deep on Zelda and Spider-Man this episode.
Jam.
So that's my recommendation right now. But now that I actually have the PSVR hooked back up, I'm gonna play some of the other games that I have and have not played. So tune in to episode 24 for more PSVR video game recommendations.
Are you going to pick up that Tetris Effect for PSVR?
Oh, hell yeah. That shit looks crazy.
Looks awesome. That almost makes me want to get a PSVR. But getting something for one game I feel like is a really bad idea.
Astrobot Rescue Mission is so good. I cannot stress this enough. This is one of the best platformers I've ever played. It is amazingly
that is high
good.
Praise.
I'll go more in depth next time.
All right, I will listen to episode 24. Because I will probably blow it off for some reason. Seems very likely.
Probably. Sebastian asks, aside from Batman and Spider-Man, which superhero do you think would translate well to a video game?
This is clearly directed at you.
Green Lantern? No,
well, the movie was real good, so...
they just got to get a Suicide Squad? No.
I'd like to see them do like a lesser known character that maybe doesn't have like a ton of powers. Like, give me like a Squirrel Girl or something like that.
How would a Squirrel Girl game play? Like, what kind of genre would that be?
Well, I don't know, man. I'm not developing the game here.
No, just throw something at me. Like, why would you want to squirrel? Like, what would excite you?
I
about
mean, the Squirrel Girl
games?
games to me are the Squirrel Girl games. There are
Yes,
Squirrel.
there's so
There
many.
definitely are Squirrel Girl games. No, the Squirrel Girl comics are really fun because they're just fun and the characters are good. And so, having played Spider-Man and been so into the characters, like I'd like to see them do something lighthearted and fun with Squirrel Girl. And she does such ridiculous stuff. Like she'll fight Doctor Doom and have him get attacked by a giant mass of squirrels, and she's saved the world from Galactus. And I feel like there's so many different ways you could go with that. But she's also just a very simple character. I mean, she's got the proportional strength of a squirrel. So
what are her movement options like? Is she like? Are you taking the bus?
I haven't thought this
around the
very
city?
far, Seth. Okay. I don't imagine you're taking the bus. No. She can jump really
Does she
high. She can
does she
leap
have a
tall
car?
buildings in a single bound. That's Squirrel Girl, right?
That's
Somebody
Superman.
different, maybe.
That's Superman for sure.
I wish they'd make a good Superman game. That would be fun.
It's hard though because he can just do everything.
Yeah,
and then
I know.
when you limit him, then they're like, "Oh, why am I got to be limited, Superman?"
Yeah, but then you can do anything and it's not fun. Yeah.
You could be like season 1 Justice League cartoon Superman, where he's like just always getting knocked down, and so everybody else has something to do.
That's why they should move away from that and make a Squirrel Girl video game, as long as you have no further questions.
You're talking about smaller characters, though, but like, I mean, they've had games, but like actual good games like Spawn or Punisher or something would make like cool video games.
I mean, Punisher definitely could lend itself well to a video game, and I mean, there's genres of games that it could fit. So I feel like it's easy to imagine a Punisher game that could be good. Whether or not they actually make a good one is up for debate, but I feel like the template is there.
Actually, Daredevil would be a pretty badass, like beat 'em up, 3D brawler type game.
There was a Daredevil game in development at some point, I think around the time of the movie, that I feel like never came out.
The Ben Affleck movie?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
So we're probably better off.
Yeah, that's probably better off. But I think that would be a cool.
Yeah, and now that Daredevil's like actually, I don't know that I'd say he's big, but like the Netflix series has been good. I wouldn't mind seeing Daredevil get a shot at a video game. That's actually a good idea because Daredevil does have a pretty specific set of powers, and that could translate well to a game.
Yeah,
that aren't super overpowered like Superman.
Exactly.
All right, I take back my suggestion of Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, it's all about Daredevil.
I don't know, man. I want to kick butts and eat nuts.
Remember the secret photographs in Spider-Man?
What are you talking about?
In the Spider-Man PS4 game, there's like secret.
Oh, the secret locations and stuff.
Yeah, secret locations.
Yeah, the only one I have found is the Statue of Liberty, which I'm pretty sure you told me about.
You get a power up. You should probably have it unlocked and don't even know that you could like equip where it like shows you the locations on your mini map, not the big map.
Oh, cool.
The mini map. Anyways, one of the locations is the Murdoch and what's his partner's name? Nelson and Murdoch, lawyer agency.
That's cool.
I thought was neat because you wouldn't even notice it otherwise. It's just like this little tiny Nelson and Murdoch plaque on a building, like very small near a door.
Uh-huh.
That's
cool. I was wondering what kind of secret locations there were going to be because like the regular ones are a mix of real locations and Marvel locations, and so I wondered if they were going to do one or the other or both. And if it's something that's just not going to be super obvious, then that makes sense as something that would be a secret location.
Yeah, I found like 12 on my own before getting the unlock.
Yeah, I do occasionally swing around and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to bring up the camera and see if it's going to tell me that I see something. And it generally hasn't worked.
I
think I found one other than the Statue of Liberty, but I don't even remember what it was.
There's a big crying crybaby J. Jonah Jameson graffiti. That's one of them.
That's kind of awesome.
Jinx. Didn't Jinx already ask a question? Yeah,
he did, but we didn't have anything to say about Coheed anyway.
Jinx says, "Did you all watch the '90s animated Spider-Man cartoon?" And yes,
I think it's clear that you did because you mentioned the weird German accent to Dr. Octopus with the bowl cut. I mean, he's always had the bowl cut, but I don't know that he had an accent in the comics, unless you brought that to it yourself.
Yeah, no, well, they usually, like, just write a whole bunch of Z's in front of words when their characters are German, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I have a question about this cartoon. Because I watched it for a while, and then stuff started getting really weird. I remember, like, Mary Jane disappeared for a while. Or maybe she died, or she disappeared and died. I don't know. And then she came back, and then it turned out she was made of water.
Yes, she was like a Hydro Man clone or something. It was weird.
All right, so this actually happened. This isn't
No,
like
that
fever
that
dream
is
I
definitely
had.
a thing that happened.
Because I remember that. Like, I literally have not watched the cartoon since I was, like, in, what is that, second, third grade? And, like, that's my last memories. That's, like, when I stopped watching the cartoon was when Mary Jane turned out to be water. And I just, like, have not known if I was remembering that incorrectly all this time.
Nope, that is definitely a thing that happened. So clearly my answer is yes, I also watched the 90s animated Spider-Man cartoon.
Was that resolved? Like, did the real Mary Jane ever show back up or anything?
The last episode was a two-parter where Spider-Man is traveling to different dimensions, and he teams up with like 6 different Spider-Men from different universes. So the Scarlet Spider and the Hoodie is there. There's a Spider-Man with like Dr. Octopus arms. There's a couple other ones. I think they're teaming up against Spider Carnage. But at the end, they're traveling and they're going to go find Mary Jane, and I think it did get renewed for another season. But the last place they go is they go to the real world, and they meet like one of the Spider-Man that was on their team was a Spider-Man who didn't have powers, and it turns out he was just like a TV actor. And they go to his world and they meet Stan Lee. So that was like a fun end to this show, but they never resolved the Mary Jane thing. It's like, oh, we're gonna go find Mary Jane now, and then that was the end.
I can't believe they went full Spider-Verse with the original cartoon. I didn't even know they were going to... Of course, I remember all this crazy stuff with... who's the creepy old lady?
Madam Web.
Madam Web.
She was actually played by Stan Lee's wife, Joan Lee.
Really?
Mm-hmm. In that last episode, it's Spider-Man and Madam Web that are traveling to the different dimensions. And Stan Lee says something like, "Ooh, who is that exotic woman?"
That's funny.
And it's like, it's a weird thing when you're like 10 years old, but knowing that it's his wife, I think the line makes a little more sense.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, so the cartoon started getting too weird for me around the Madam Web and Mary Jane being water stuff.
Yeah.
So
it was interesting the way that show, it started out and they had like a bunch of like single episodes about like, oh, villain origins and stuff. Like there's a lizard episode and there's a chameleon episode and whatever. And then they started having like long running plots. And it got interestingly weird from there, and then it got into like you said, Mary Jane being a water clone, and that was weird.
I watched, I've looked at like pictures of the cartoon, and Spider-Man's head seems tiny.
Yeah, I could see that.
Is his head tiny in this cartoon?
I haven't watched it lately, but I think so. I think that's a possibility.
All right.
I'm not going to commit one way or the other.
Spider-Man has a tiny head. You've heard it here first.
It was a
folks.
weird show, too, because, like, all the cops had laser guns. And all the cityscapes were, like, CG. And it's like, this is very early 90s if you try to watch it now.
I think Spider-Man couldn't punch anybody. That was like...
That is true, too, yeah. He was always swinging and kicking people, but not punching them.
Yeah.
And they couldn't say die. They'd only say destroy. Which is weird. And they weren't the Sinister Six. They were the Insidious Six. Because everybody knows what Insidious is.
But that's funny too, because like the the X-Men cartoon that was running at the same time had Mr. Sinister, right?
Yeah. Maybe there was some kind of confusion there. And they had the Batman animated series on there too, which had like real guns, so it's not like they were trying to censor it.
Only Batman was getting past the censors for some reason. I
think they had blood on that show too, occasionally.
Yeah, now the behind the scenes DVDs like talk with Bruce Timm and what's the other dude?
Paul Dini. Paul
Dini. Yeah, they're like talking about how they have no idea why they were like able to be past the censors and none of the other cartoons were, but they just rolled with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have a book about the Batman animated series because that is a great show. That is a legitimately great show that is worth watching now. Whereas I don't necessarily feel the same way about the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s.
You getting the Blu-ray set?
Definitely.
Yeah. All in on that. This has been the Batman podcast. Is there anything else we wanna add or talk about?
Nope. I was trying to come up with something. I was trying to yes and I just can't.
No, we've already had enough technical issues
I know.
this episode.
Oh, God.
All right, I'm going to do my best Craig impression here. I want to thank everyone for listening. You can find us on SoundCloud at SoundCloud.com.
You're doing great, Seth. Keep it going.
Ludowave Radio. You can subscribe, stream, and download the show there. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher. Please write us a review because we always have to beg for those. That's what Craig always does right here. Please, we haven't had a review in so long. That's what we say. Our theme song is composed exclusively for us by Morning Moon and Mercury. You can find more of his stuff at morningmoonandmercury.bandcamp.com. You can find me on Twitter at Seth Castellum. Chris, where can they find you?
I was really hoping you were going to say, you can find me, Craig, on Twitter. No, but you did. You did good. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at echrisdunn.
And you can find Craig on Twitter and Instagram at TV and Lust.
And you can not find him right now because he's gotten married and he's on his honeymoon. So congratulations again, Craig.
He's having married sex now.
And by again, I mean, I think that's the first time I said congratulations. So congratulations, Craig.
I'm still not. I'm saving for when he gets back. Peace out, y'all.
Bye.